Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and today we're going to take a look at a few players that I've locked in for 2020. Now, it's not even Christmas and it's 2019, but Shorty is getting stuck into some SuperCoach. I know it's early, guys, but just bear with me. I just want to have a bit of content out there for when mid-Jan hits or whenever it is and people get keen, that I've just got a bit of a database of content. So I know I'm getting in a touch early, but just bear with me. Now, I've got 5 names here on the old notepad that I'm locking and loading. I've got a few honourable mentions, and it's a long way out, but these are guys that I just think are definitely going to be on my side unless they get injured. You know, I was sort of mapping out a few guys that I would build my side around, and these were the names I came up with. And firstly, Dustin Martin. You know, he gets the dual position status. He's a lock. He probably hasn't been a lock as a pure mid because he can be a bit up and down. Throughout the actual season, we know he dominates finals, but the home and away season, he isn't always 110 plus. But I think if he's forward and available as a forward, which he is, we have to lock him in. He's a superstar in the best team in the competition. That hurts me to say it, but we know he's going to give us more than 100 average. At his best, that can be 115. We can probably expect between that 104 to 109 sort of mark, most likely. And look, he's going to be a lock as a forward. So too will be Lachie Whitfield, one of my absolute favourites. I think he's just about exactly what we look for in SuperCoach. He's a very reliable player, talented, good user, can play a number of roles. If there's one query, it is that if he cops a bit of attention from the opposition, he probably hasn't handled that super well at times and has been tagged out of the game. He was dominating last year, absolutely flying. An injury hit a little bit, and that did affect some of his scores and his overall average. But he's pretty affordable. You know, costs a bit, no doubt, but I think we absolutely have to lock him in, particularly given his dual position status. And then I'm looking at Sam Doherty. Now, he's going to be underpriced, and there will be an element of risk because he has redone that knee a number of times. Now, prior to going down with those injuries, he was the best defender in SuperCoach land, you know, averaging massive numbers, 110 plus, just racking them up, rebound 50s, intercepting, just dominating for the Blues. Clearly, we're not going to get that, but I think he'll probably be around the 400 grand mark. At least that's the predictor that I've been looking at, around the 400 mark. He'll certainly be well under his actual value and what he's capable of. Look, you've got to track his pre-season, but we'd be hard-pressed to not go with him. If he gets through, as I said off the top, if these guys don't suffer any niggles, and it's most relevant for Doherty, then he's going to be in everyone's team. We know what he can do at his best, plays a very SuperCoach-friendly role, and the Blues love it in his hands. Very good player. And Brodie Grundy in at number 4. Now, look, he is going to cost you an absolute fortune, but he's worth it. You know, we saw him last year. Much of the conversation was, can we pay that much money for a ruckman? He averaged 130.5, and last year he backed it up, averaging 130. In the prime of his career, just dominates. So historically, Shorty doesn't like spending that amount of coin on anyone. I've made that clear over the journey with the likes of Ablett and Dangerfield and those types. But I think you've just got to go with Grundy because midfield options, yeah, they're a bit different. There's a lot of superstars in the midfield. But ruckman, there's only 2 absolute superstars in terms of the numbers, our numbers, and that's Gawn and Grundy. And you can't play both of them, I don't think, from the start. And Grundy's just more durable and averages a couple of more points over the journey. So he's going to break the bank. But unless something else bobs up, and a lot of people will be looking at Nick Nat and some other options, but at this point in time, I think it's difficult to upgrade ruckman. I think it can be very frustrating having a mediocre bloke that's a mid-pricer and you're hoping that he could be a stepping stone and he's not. And meanwhile, Grundy's dominating. I think there's always better stepping stone options through other positions. The ruckman, generally, we have our absolute guns, and then we're going for rookie types or players returning from injury, like a Nick Nat. And there's been a list of those players over the journey that we've gone with, like Sanderlands is probably the main example. So I think Grundy just about has to be picked, even at that massive price tag. And here's an interesting one for you. Clayton Oliver. I'm locking in Clary. Most people, or a lot of people, like to give him some flack and a bit of social media banter, but I reckon he's slightly unders. And look, I could have gone the obvious Cripps or Fife or something like that, but I thought Oliver averaged 109 last year. Last 12 rounds, averaged 113.3. And I think we'll get more of those numbers. Bear in mind, he's still so young. He's coming into the prime of his career. And he's still reeled off 3 averages of 109 or more. 2 of those more than 110. So I just like, a bit of a unique thing. Everyone out there would have probably guessed that I'd say Doherty, Martin, Whitfield and Grundy. Pretty obvious ones. But I thought I'd throw Oliver in there just for a little point of difference. And I really am a big fan of him. Contested ball, struggled a little bit with the shoulders at times, and the D's had a tough season, particularly early. Oliver and the like of Brayshaw and a stack of other players just weren't at their best. But Oliver was one of the few that did find some really good form, even though it was a bit irrelevant because the D's were going so poorly. His back end of the season was pretty good. So I really like him with just a smidgen of value. I think he can average around 115. So I really like that. Now, a few honourable mentions. Look, I was just sort of penning a few things down about where I would sort of find the core of my side. And I'll just throw a few names at you. Those guys are the main ones, but just to get the thoughts provoked a little bit. Cornelio, I really like the look of him. He'll be slightly unders because he had some injury-affected games. I think that one where he returned with the knee, I think he might have scored 2 or maybe even 0. I can't remember. But he was off very early, and he was in my team at that point, so that hurt. But I think he'll rise with the captaincy. I think he'll be a very good option. Also in the midfield, and you're probably expecting this name, Tom Mitchell. Now, I think he'll be a very popular selection, but I'm just holding off because the latest I heard was he was really struggling with that injury in the return and had some really difficult times. So I would have to reread the article, but I think they said he wasn't an absolute lock for round 1, or, he's tracking there, but probably not tracking as well as maybe we had hoped. So we're going to have to wait and see on that one. Caleb Daniel, I'll be doing a player profile on him, massive fan. James Sicily as well, done a player profile on him. You can get my thoughts on that. And as I mentioned, Paddy Cripps, Paddy Dangerfield, very good options. And I think Dangerfield, about as cheap as we've been able to get him for some time now. Maybe his 120 days might be past him, but look, he's as affordable as we've ever seen him for the last few years. So I really like him, and they're just a few guys that at this point in time, Rory Laird's probably a little unders as well. So there's a few names to just get you thinking. If I've missed anyone that you think's an absolute lock, let me know. And if you've got any other video ideas that you'd like to see. As I've said in other videos, I'm just sort of easing into things. A few player profiles, a few prediction videos. And hopefully, I reckon there's a small percentage of us out there that are keen on SuperCoach AFL right now. I'm a bit of a nuffy. I love it. I wasn't even interested about 2-3 weeks ago, but as soon as I got a little sniff, boom. I'm thinking about it all the time. Maybe Shorty's got to get out a bit more, but if you've got any ideas for videos, I'm just getting a few things out there because, as I said, I reckon 5% of SuperCoaches are thinking about it right now. I reckon in about a month, that number will be up to 50%. By the time we're hitting February, it's just about everyone's all in. And I don't want to be playing catch-up. I want when everyone's keen, I want them to be able to jump on this channel and see plenty of content. So hopefully that's what we're building at the moment. If you're watching now, thank you very much. If you're watching through January or February or whatever it may be, still just as good. So subscribe away, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.